The government puts its flight suspension mechanism on hold. The city's daily COVID tally tops 3,000. And in the UK, Prime Minister Boris Johnson is said to be stepping down. Hello and welcome to TVB News. The city has put on hold its flight suspension mechanism, meaning airlines will no longer be banned for bringing in too many infected passengers or breaking anti-COVID rules. Starting tomorrow, all incoming travelers must take an extra nucleic acid test on the third day of their quarantine. Sharon Tang has details.
Just one day after Chief Executive John Lee vowed to make travelling in and out of the city more convenient, the administration announced the rolling back of the flight suspension mechanism. The government says the arrangement has messed up travellers' itineraries, especially when quarantine hotels and air tickets are in high demand, leading to high social costs. It noted July and August are peak season months when many Hong Kongers and students overseas come back to the city. Authorities say under the SAR's strict preventive measures, the impact of imported cases on the city's pandemic situation will be low. They have therefore decided to put the flight suspension mechanism on hold until further notice. Health Secretary Lo Chung-mau said the government will not allow infected travellers to spread the virus into the community. He added the nucleic acid tests that incoming travellers are required to do at the airport now has a 60% efficacy in identifying and stopping infected passengers from getting into the community. Lo stressed the move not only allows students to reunite with their family, but it's a decision that benefits the entire family, not just an individual. Authorities have also ramped up nucleic acid tests. Starting tomorrow, incoming travellers must undergo another nucleic acid test on their third day of arrival, on top of doing so on their first and fifth days of arrival. After they leave the quarantine hotel, they must repeat the tests on days 9 and 12 of their arrival. Cathay Pacific Airways says it welcomes the move, adding that in view of the recent adjustments, it's resuming more passenger and cargo flights. Still, tourism sector lawmaker Yu Pak-leung said the next thing the government should do is to relax the existing 7-day quarantine arrangement, which he calls a major hindrance to most travellers. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
Shenzhen has also rolled out a so-called CARA corridor measure, allowing extra quarantine slots at designated hotels for targeted groups arriving from Hong Kong. These travelers with special needs won't take up the recently expanded daily quota of 2,000. They include seniors aged 70 or above, pregnant women and their companions, children aged 14 or under without a guardian in the SAR, and those whose immediate family members are in critical condition or have died recently. Hong Kong's new health chief Lo Chung-mau says the new measure shows how the mainland cares about the needs of Hong Kong. Still, there are people who feel left out, such as those with family members having chronic illnesses. They include Awa here, whose cancer-stricken grandmother is set to undergo surgery this month. She hopes the authorities can understand their needs and further relax cross-boundary arrangements. Today, the city's newly reported COVID case count topped the 3,000 mark. Some 170 infections were reported, with one more COVID-related death. Jackie Lin reports.
For the first time since early April, the city's daily COVID tally breached the 3,000 level. And health authorities warn the case count may double in a week or two.
If this is the rate of increase, then in another 2 weeks it's possible that the number may hit 6,000.
And the first to feel the pinch could be the city's healthcare services.
Early June, actually, we have a record low of the number of patients that is doubled by now. So we need to remain cautious.
This as COVID outbreaks continue to unfold at public hospitals. A patient at the Alice Ho Mu Ling Nethersole Hospital who tested COVID positive on Monday has likely infected 6 of his wardmates and a nurse there. 4 more catering workers at the hospital also contracted the virus. The infection cluster at the Hong Kong Buddhist Hospital now saw 16 linked cases after 2 more patients contracted COVID. 2 care homes reported outbreaks, including Kingfolk Home for the Aged. Schools reported around 200 new COVID-positive diagnoses. The city also detected more than 40 new suspected cases with a BA2 subvariant and 17 additional suspected BA4 or 5 infections. Health authorities say they will closely monitor cases with the mutant strains, citing latest statistics from the World Health Organization that BA5 is replacing other variants in prevalence. This as a BA5 variant is found in more than 80 countries, accounting for more than half of the cases involving mutant strains, up from around 1/3 of such cases last week. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
Macau recorded 128 new coronavirus cases yesterday, the second day in a row with more than 100 cases. The enclave has so far logged 1,215 infections in the latest outbreak. The 5th round of citywide mandatory testing, which commenced yesterday, concluded at 6 p.m. The 6th round is set to commence tomorrow and conclude on Saturday. The Macau government will decide whether to tighten anti-epidemic measures based on the results of the 4th to 6th rounds of universal testing. Meantime, the mainland reported 338 new COVID-19 infections today, with more than half of the cases being asymptomatic infections. In Shanghai, the previously postponed National College Entrance Exam, or Gaokao, officially commenced today. The city saw a rebound in the epidemic with 32 confirmed infections and 22 asymptomatic cases reported yesterday. Attendees of this year's Gaokao must undergo 2 rounds of PCR tests 3 days prior to and 1 rapid antigen test on the day of the exam. In Anhui, 39 new cases confirmed and 128 asymptomatic cases were reported. Meanwhile, Taiwan saw an increase of some 31,000 cases and 105 epidemic-related deaths.
Shanghai are getting increased.
Overseas, beleaguered British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is said to be stepping down following the deluge of resignations from his government. He apparently will stay on as caretaker Prime Minister for the time being. Matthew Bray reports.
Boris Johnson is expected to resign on Thursday, with his office saying he will make a statement to the country. He has already informed Queen Elizabeth of his decision. A delegation of senior ministers went to Downing Street last night to tell the Prime Minister that he needed to go and make a dignified exit. But he refused to budge and sacked Michael Gove, who told him he should quit. If that wasn't drama enough, it emerged Thursday morning the new Chancellor, Nadhim Zahawi, appointed less than 48 hours ago to replace Rishi Sunak, was one of those in the delegation saying Johnson should leave with dignity. At a parliamentary liaison committee yesterday, Johnson came under fire from Conservative MP and committee chair Bernard Jenkin.
If you have lost the confidence of your MPs and you're required to step down as leader of the Conservative Party, you will not seek to dissolve Parliament.
Well, I think the last thing this country needs, but I'm not going to step down. And the last thing this country needs, frankly, is election.
On
the contrary, I think the risk is that people continue to focus on this type of thing, and I think that is a mistake.
Education Secretary Michelle Donnellan, who was also appointed Tuesday following the resignation of her predecessor, resigned Thursday morning. Northern Ireland Secretary Brandon Lewis also joined her. Some 40 junior officials have also departed amid a growing furore over Johnson's handling of sexual misconduct allegations against a senior official. He survived a no-confidence vote on June 6, but the loss of 2 by-elections and the latest scandal has tipped many in the party over the top. In PMQs yesterday in the House of Commons, Johnson had come under attack from Labour and his own MPs, but was defiant.
But frankly, Mr. Speaker, the job of a Prime Minister in difficult circumstances when he's been handed a colossal mandate is to keep going, and that's what I'm going to do.
But with 8 ministers, including 2 secretaries of state, resigning in the last 2 hours, an isolated and powerless Johnson was set to bow to the inevitable and declare he was stepping down later. The Conservatives will now have to elect a new leader, a process that could take 2 months. Matthew Bray, TVB News.
In the U.S., the 21-year-old man charged with killing 7 people at an Independence Day parade has confessed to police that he unleashed a hail of bullets from a rooftop in suburban Chicago. He then fled to Madison, Wisconsin area where he contemplated another shooting. This report from NBC News.
Tonight, officials say Robert Crimo III has confessed, telling police he's the man behind that horrific attack on a holiday parade that killed 7 and injured dozens more.
His statement was voluntary. He went into details about what he had done.
Police also saying Crimo considered a second shooting in Wisconsin, where he drove following the attack in Highland Park.
He seriously contemplated using the firearm he had in his vehicle to commit another shooting in Madison.
While no motive has been made public, police have a theory as to why Crimo chose July 4th as the date of the attack. The numbers 4 and 7 visible on this car parked outside of his home.
He had some type of affinity towards the number 4 and 7, and inverse was 7-4.
The 21-year-old suspect made his first appearance in court today, appearing virtually. He's being held without bond, facing 7 counts of first-degree murder, with more charges likely. And tonight, questions are growing about how Crimo was able to buy 5 weapons legally, despite being on the radar of law enforcement. I spoke to Steve Greenberg, who is representing Crimo's parents.
People are upset with the alleged shooter's parents. They're telling me, how did they not know something like this wasn't going to happen? Do the parents in this situation bear some responsibility?
We could always look at an event and then in hindsight say, oh, these were the warning signs. There is no history of him ever engaging in a single violent act. It's easy to say now, well, the parents should have known, but the fact is that nobody knew, nobody saw anything because there was nothing to see.
Tonight, Highland Park mourns 7 lives cut short, including 69-year-old Eduardo Uvaldo, who died this morning. His daughter says he was shot in the back of the head while attending the parade with his family. And Katie Goldstein. Lester spoke yesterday with her heartbroken daughter, Cassie.
I could see her face, and she was not breathing, and there was blood everywhere down the steps. And so I knew she was dead. And then they had to take me away in a police car, and I had to spend the day covered in her blood.
2-year-old Aiden McCarthy survived, but his parents Kevin and Irina did not. The Chicago Sun-Times reporting Kevin's heroic final act, shielding his young son from the bullets.
The little boy, which now everyone knows is Aiden, was underneath the father.
Tony and Irina Colon are part of the McCarthy's extended family. They felt compelled to help little Aiden, so they started a GoFundMe for the little boy. The donations taking off like wildfire, growing from a few thousand to now more than $2 million.
Still ahead, Russia keeps up bombarding Ukrainian cities. Another fatal industrial accident in the mid-levels. And Baptist University scientists discover 3 new species of hard coral in Hong Kong waters. Welcome back to TVB News. Russian forces continue to pound towns and cities in eastern Ukraine as they try to take complete control of the industrial Donbas region. Ukraine, though, say they have succeeded in repulsing Russian attacks, with fighting still raging in Luhansk and Donetsk provinces. Nazvi Karim has the details.
Heavy smoke filled the air and fire scorched the countryside as Donetsk province in eastern Ukraine came under intense artillery fire from Russian forces. On Tuesday, Russia claimed victory in Luhansk, which together with Donetsk make up the Donbas region. Russia's strategy is to bombard towns and cities in Donetsk to clear the way for ground forces to advance. It is trying to seize 2 towns en route to Kramatorsk, south of Sloviansk, as well as the main highway linking Luhansk to Donetsk province. However, Ukrainian armed forces officials say they have held up the Russian advance and are preventing them from reaching the key city of Sloviansk. Luhansk Governor Serhiy Gadai told Ukrainian TV that his province was still not fully occupied by Russia, who he said has suffered colossal losses. 2 children reportedly died at this playground, with Russia blaming Ukrainian shelling. Independent agencies were unable to verify the claims, and eyewitnesses say it was struck by a Soviet-era Uragan missile. Ukrainian armed forces officials also claim to have repelled Russian attacks on a town and village north of the country's second-largest city, Kharkiv, near the Russian border and outside Donetsk. Kharkiv Regional Governor Ole Syniobov said on Telegram that 1 person was killed and 3, including a toddler, were injured. This university in Kharkiv was reduced to rubble, with Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky describing the attack as the height of barbarism on Russia's part. Its ministry, meanwhile, said its forces have killed up to 100 Ukrainian troops and destroyed 4 armored vehicles. Spokesman Igor Konashenkov said air-launched high-precision missiles have also destroyed 2 HIMARS multiple-launch rocket systems sent to Ukraine by the United States. Despite this, Zelensky said weapons from the West are finally making a difference in the war. He said artillery units using Western hardware have hit targets accurately and were inflicting damage on Russian weapons depots and supply lines. He even claimed that Ukrainian forces were advancing on several Russian defensive lines in occupied territories. Meanwhile, in Kiev, Zelensky met Irish Prime Minister Michael Martin, who pledged political support and expertise for Ukraine as they try to speed up the country's membership to the European Union. Nazri Karim, TVB News.
Back here in Hong Kong, a worker died in the Mid-Levels neighborhood on Hong Kong Island after falling from a building. The incident occurred at a construction site at 105 Robinson Road. At 8 a.m., police received a report about a man falling from a height of 10 stories. He was sent to Queen Mary Hospital but died after receiving emergency treatment. The Labor Department visited the site for investigation. A man was arrested for allegedly setting a double-decker bus on fire Thursday morning. The incident happened at around 7:30 a.m. at the artificial island that houses the boundary crossing facilities for the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge. The vehicle was parked at the bus terminus at the time. Nobody was injured in the incident. It is understood the arrested suspect is a cleaner. Hong Kong Baptist University discovered 3 new species of hard coral in Hong Kong waters, species that have not been found anywhere else in the world. Timothy Lee has more.
Among the newly discovered coral species is the Tubastraea dendroida. Similar to most sun corals, this one comes in bright orange but has a tree-like structure. Another species, the Tubastraea violacea, stands out from other related sun coral as its polyp wall tissues and skeleton are violet in color. The third newly found species, the Tubastraea coloramura, has a delicate olive-green skeletal wall and a circle of yellow tentacles surrounding its mouth. All 3 coral species live in waters at depths of between 10 and 30 meters. To survive, they gain energy and nutrients by capturing zooplankton from seawater using their tentacles. The 3 new coral species were discovered by a Hong Kong Baptist University team led by biology professor Chiu Jian-wen. The team discovered the new species while doing a project assessing the impact of coral-eating nudibranchs in Hong Kong's eastern waters.
The 3 species are quite rare. They are not the most common species. We don't see them in every dive. Currently, we only saw them at these 2 locations. As you can see, we don't have a lot of samples. We don't collect a lot of samples of these 3 species.
The team added that the number of sun coral species known to scientists has now grown from 7 to 10. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching.